Welcome into day 31, and you are speaking with the Meeples Champion. You know, we've been going over a lot of my favorite themed type games. They tend to be generally sci-fi or fantasy a lot of the time. What we haven't jumped into a lot has been the science side. And I have a game that I had to borrow from a friend. It's one that we've played a few different times, and it's always hit great with us. And it's definitely way more science-y than most of the games that we play. That game is called Cytosis. Now, Cytosis is an interesting type of game to go into because at the end of the day, you're just playing a worker placement game. But what I love about this game is that for somebody like myself, that when I was growing up and I was going through school, I suffered in science. Science was not my subject. I had a lot of trouble really getting to know that. However, people have come up with these fantastic games now that, well, it may not have made me suddenly a amazing science student. It would have been a really great option for a teacher to bring that in, to be able to teach science through something else that would have attracted your interest. A board game is a fantastic way where you're trying to win, you're trying to compete, so you're looking for what kind of strategies that you can achieve in order to do this, and you start to learn the game so well, and all of a sudden they might say, well, he didn't ace all these different tests that we had, but those initial tests, the foundation for what helps you with the later tests, was built by the simplicity of what they taught you in this game. Again, not every game is going to be a perfect teaching material, and not every game is going to always be accurate. Just because it's sciencey doesn't mean that it was well researched. However, this game really, in my opinion, is a great building blocks for your kids to come in, find a game that's fun, and help them if they're having a little trouble with understanding a subject. Going from there, let's actually discuss what I normally would judge for a game. Our 7 categories. So let's start with art. Art is fantastic. This game is, as I said before, it's a science game. Cytosis is about molecules and the building blocks, and you only can do so much with that kind of an art. But I find that they do a really good job here. It doesn't detract from kids, but it also isn't so kid-centric that adults can't look at the game and enjoy it. I think that this sells the box. I think that they do a good multiple colors, basic, variation. If you're looking for science, you see this box, you know what you're getting. At the same time, you might see this box and be like, what is this? And it makes you end up reading the box and you end up getting into it. I think the art sells this game. I think that the art is extremely helpful. It's a big thumbs up from me. What about the components? Primarily, these components are all going to end up being wooden, which for me, wood is usually a pretty good choice for component. It tends to be one of the most durable and long-lasting. You do have some cards in here. The cards are all fine. They're really, I wouldn't say they're the best cards. But from what I've seen, this game's been on for a few years. The cards are definitely not broken down. They're not in their actual card cases or anything like that. These are all, individually held cards. They're just as good as a good deck of 52 cards as far as there's a good feel to them. They're not going to rip easily. There's a little shine to them. I like that. The price. The price is, I think, acceptable, a little steep. It's around the $50 range. It's not horrible. But when you first look at this box, you may not want that for $50. I think that if I'm looking at a store and I see this, I'm going to see this box and be thinking like, I want that for $30. Maybe 40 is my cutoff. And then you see it as 50 and you go, do I want to drop $50 on this game? It is not an easy decision. I think that it depends on how big of a gamer you are. I think that for early beginning gamers, they're not going to want to buy this game. I think the price is too high. And I think that when you're talking about the in-depth gamers, they may say, well, I could get that for 50, but there's another game I'd much rather get for 60, and I'd rather shift my money that way. So I think the price is a little bit steep for this one. It's not that it isn't worth that money. It's not like they're price gouging people. It's just, what are you seeing from the outside of the box to make you think $50 is worth it? Now, when you open the box, I think you see where the $50 is. You see the components, you see the art, you see how large this game is. It is not small. Even though this is in what I would consider to be a medium-sized box, it is a lot bigger once you've set it up. So I do think that this game is worth the $50 once you've broken into that box. The question is, does the price sell the game to somebody who hasn't gone and watched a how-to video, who hasn't played with a friend's version? I do think that it hurts there, and I have to give it a thumbs down on the price because of that. The difficulty. I don't think this is too difficult to learn. There is a lot going on that board. But while you may not introduce somebody new to this game, or you yourself jump into this game and immediately understand what's going on, there's not necessarily a wrong choice. It's what I love about a worker placement. When you have a worker placement, you have all these options. The likelihood is everybody's going to end up picking one at some point. So you have a chance to get to know the game before those options are really going to hurt you. You're not going to make your first and second and third placement on round 1. Get to round 2 and find that you've already screwed yourself out of winning. You will probably have a good couple rounds where no matter what you're doing, you're still competitive in the game if you've figured it out. And I don't think this game's impossible to learn down the stretch of that first game. I think that you might be lost for the first couple rounds and you don't know what's going on. And then all of a sudden, round 3, you figure it out and you go, okay, well, I would have done this differently, but because of what I've done, I am now going to go on this particular direction for my strategy, and it will at least give me a shot. So I don't think the difficulty is too difficult, but it is right on that precipice where you have to be sure. You know, it says 10 plus. I definitely agree with that. I don't think under 10 would get this game. And I think at 10, or for a rare gamer, this is one that those first couple rounds you're going to be a little lost in. But I think that's not an issue for me. I don't think that being lost in a round or 2 rounds ruins a game for me. First plays, I have been mistaken on multiple occasions. Me and my friends have found out we played rules wrong. We found out that we had completely incorrect strategies. That's what first plays are for. Difficulty, I'm going to give a thumbs up. What about the routes to victory? Just as I said during the difficulty, you can find many routes to victory. You might have decided early on, well, I'm going to go collect, pieces A and B, and it turns out, wow, I probably should have been getting the green pieces, the blue pieces. And as a result, you find out, well, I'm going to have to go in this direction. I'm going to have to try to get the points by having area control, or I'm going to have to have the points by trying to get a gold card. I'm going to have to get the points by trying to make sure that I'm getting more of the little victories. There are different ways to win. You can adjust your play as you're going. And I think that this game gives you that opportunity. It goes 2 to 5 player. And I think that for the most part, the more players that come in, the more strategy opens because things start getting harder and harder to score in. So I give that a thumbs up. Replayability. I don't think this will get played twice in a night. I think it'll be long enough of a game that you'll finish it and you'll be okay. You could play it 2 times in a row. If you're getting together and you and your friends want to sit down and you want to play a game all day long, and you're literally talking, hey, let's get together at noon, we're playing till midnight. Yes, you could play this 2 or 3 times in that time frame. But does it need to be played like that? No. But can it be played again next week or the next month or multiple times a year? Is this a game you're buying and putting on your shelf and you're using it one time and then you don't touch it for a long time? No. I think this game has replayability. I just don't think it is back-to-back replayability. I think this is spread it out. If I had this in my collection and it wasn't my friend's, and you were to ask me how often do I think I can get to the table, my guess would be I'm going to get that to the table at least once every 3 months, once a season. With a big collection like this, that's a great claim because a lot of games you don't get back to the table for years. You have 300 games, they're all big. How often do you have enough people to play them? You're not going to do that. This game is playable at 2. This game is fun 3, 4, or 5. I don't feel like any player count hurts it, but I do think the more people, the better. So thumbs up for me for the replayability. Uniqueness. I don't think it's unique. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. It's a science game. Next week, we might be jumping into another science game, which is going to kind of show you this comparison. But there are games that are comparable to it, that do roughly what it does. It might do it to a higher degree, but they exist. It's not unique enough for me to be able to get that unique thumbs up. I think that it has a lot of really great mechanisms in it. I think it has an interesting theme. And I think that for the most part, this is a game that when you get it to the table, a lot of people won't recognize it, but not recognizing doesn't make it unique. I don't think that it spreads itself out far enough with its theme to truly say, okay, we're going to make that difference when it comes to, well, now you're playing a science game with all these mechanics that do the worker placement and do the deck building and do the special area control. No. I think that those are interesting, but they exist elsewhere. They've existed together before under other themes, and this has another game that has a similar theme. So, at the end of the day, do I recommend this game? Yes, I do recommend this game. I don't recommend it to everybody. I think if you've got kids who are interested in science, this would be great. I think as an adult, if you were a big science person, you'll love it. I think if you have kids who are a little bit struggling but love board games, this will be a fantastic ad to help them out. And I think that it's a good addition to anyone's collection, but I don't think it's needed. I think judge it on your own. Do you have a game that's already doing this balance of mechanics? Okay, don't need this one. Do you have a similar science game already doing this? Then you don't need this one. It's okay to not own every game that's out there. I do think this is worth buying. I do think it's worth your time and it's worth your money, but I don't think that it's required, and I don't think that it's going to hit the same for everybody. The games I recommend on a regular basis, I usually am pretty strong behind. I recommend this game, but I do not strongly recommend this game. Judge it on your own. Well, this has been day 31, and you've been speaking to the Meeples Champion. Check back in tomorrow on day 32. I'll see you then.